And it's a message in that everybody expressed themselves and their pain differently. I've
So
seen.
let me jump in here for a second.
Okay, go ahead,
When
Kay.
you say when you say we have a right to be heard, what do you mean? Now let's properly introduce Brett. Brett is someone who is new to the community
Yeah.
as far as organizing. So I want you to tell us what you mean when you say in order to be heard, it's a riot. What does that mean to you?
So when you say in order to be heard, you have to riot, you have to take action at some point. But at the same time, you don't want to get to the point of where you destroy your home. You don't want to get to the point to where you take away from yourself by trying to be heard. So there's an effective way to be able to make sure you're heard and get a message across.
Right.
And I think that was something that was done when we ended up engaging and things got a little rough with officers on Saturday. In no way, shape, form, or fashion do I condone violence or any type of thing like that. And I don't think that was the plan of the person.
But Brent,
Yes, go
let's
ahead.
talk about let's talk about what you say. What you're saying when you say you don't condone violence? What do you mean?
When I say I don't
What
condone,
to you?
go ahead. Could you repeat that again, Kay?
What is violence to you?
What is violence? Violence
Hmm.
is when you have an agenda to hurt and abuse someone else.
Hmm. Interesting. So, would you say that the folks who are disenfranchising people of color have an
Mhm.
agenda of violence?
I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
And
And
what violence are you thinking exist?
I couldn't hear you. Could you say that one more
Or
time?
what other kinds of violence you think exist?
Well, there are many types of violence that exist. Violence exists in multiple ways, and sometimes it come in unconscious ways that people don't even realize that they're becoming violent. So let's talk about some of those types of ways that people can become violent. You can become violent simply by pressing or through your stigmas of what you're giving the people. So sometimes people kind of characterize or build their families up on racism. Is racism there to hurt people? Yes. Is it there to demean people? Is it there to have an objective to basically take someone and destroy them or destruct them? Yes, it's a form of violence. Discrimination, it's a form of violence. Those type of things, and it's all rammed in our social structure, and we have to identify and be conscious and aware of, are we condoning or not condoning violence in the actions that we take?
So,
So,
so let's just take it back 2 steps.
okay.
What is the violence? What are we defining as violence, and what are we saying is violence?
I think for me and my personal beliefs, when someone asks me what is violence, it is when you take a moment to do something to damage the good of someone else. When you're
Hmm.
taking a moment to hurt someone else, when you're taking that moment to destroy someone else's life. Um, so um, when I think of violence, when I think of the George Floyd case, that's violence. When I think of Eric Garner, when I think of Ahmaud Arbery, that those are violent actions. They're meditated on the fact of, I don't like you, and it's conscious, and it may be conscious or unconsciously ingrained in them from their social structure, from what they have had to be embedded into them.
Yes. Can we? So we have Sharia. We want to introduce into the conversation. Can we welcome her into that conversation that we're having?
Hello, Kay and Brent.
Hi there.
Thank you for inviting me into the conversation. And this is one of those, it's a crucial and critical conversation that we need to have. So, first, I just want to say that um, I am so encouraged and strengthened that young people of color are stepping up in our local community and saying, hey, wait, we need to not just talk, but we need to take action. We need to activate.
Right.
So, Brent, Kay, and to so many of the younger generation that are stepping up, um, I thank you.
Right.
And so we're gonna,
And we
um,
thank you for being here too. Like you did a the first time that I saw you, Miss Sharia, was when you were a woman of heritage for Miss Vera, God rest her soul,
mm,
in our community. When you were a woman of heritage for her breakfast in, I want to say 2015, 16. So
yeah,
you being a
17. Mhm.
long-standing community is amazing, and the fact that you're here is amazing.
Thank you. The fact that we are all here is amazing. So I wanted to just touch on a couple of things that Brent, you had mentioned, and Kay, you guys were dialoguing about. First, this notion is brilliant of after the protest, what's next?
Yeah.
Um, and that gives answering that question gives all of this this work, this passion, this screaming from people of color. We are here. We are in pain.
Hmm.
What's next? So uh, we need to ask that question because what that does is give momentum beyond the moment. So, in organizing this, um, we move from uh, protest, and Brent, you used the word riot,
Hmm.
and um, it's just something that I've learned and seen, observed over my time with these moments
Hmm.
when people of color
Hmm.
stand up
Yes.
and want to have their voice and their feelings and their situation heard, recognized, seen truthfully.
Hmm.
It's called a riot.
Yes.
Okay, so um, when we talk about this systemic
Hmm.
racism that's in our world, our
Yeah.
society, um, we have to control that narrative.
Hmm.
So, uh, no, we're protesting.
Hmm.
We're not rioting. There are yeah, pockets of riots.
Yeah.
The majority of the people were exercising their right in the right way.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
peaceful. So,
Yes.
what is beyond the protest? We need to move to the uprising.
Yes.
So, that's the continuum that
Hmm.
we have this same sense and urgency to come together physically,
Hmm.
come together and be on one accord in our message, but also in our demands.
Yeah.
That's uprising,
Right.
not an insurrection. So
Right.
within our community of connection and marching on, we need to hear what we're saying
Hmm.
and examine it in the lens of white America.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you said that this is recovery. You
Yeah.
are absolutely right. But we need to go back and learn about our history. So spend some time understanding strategically what didn't work or what happened. It used to be, it was at one point after enslavement, it was called Reconstruction.
Yes.
Um, then we had a renewal. Then we had recovery. Now we're dealing with this and grappling with, now we can, whatever you call it,
Mm-hmm.
we are tired
Time.
as a race of marginalized people who this construct of America was never set up for
Right.
us.
Exactly.
Um, we have the freedoms that we have as a more of a byproduct. It was not
Mm-hmm.
um, constructed for us. So in this, it is okay to be tired. We have to give ourselves and each other space and
Mm-hmm.
permission to be tired.
Be time.
And what you see, these acts, um, some of them, I believe, are orchestrated agitation
Mm-hmm.
to make us look like we are the aggressors or that we're violent and to make this all look senseless. But people are tired.
Be tired.
That's it. They're tired. We should never just intentionally harm somebody,
Mm-hmm.
physically cause them pain. But what we're seeing is the result of um, years and years and years and centuries of a people
Mm-hmm.
not being appreciated, being emotionally, physically, economically oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the last 60 days,
Mm-hmm.
people have been confined. And so we had the making of this perfect storm.
Right.
Um, I wonder if it hadn't been for COVID, would some of the people who don't look like us be out?
Mm.
It's just really time to for people to be authentic, to examine white,
Mm-hmm.
black, yellow, whatever, what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
So step back, reflect, refocus, and then build up the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
So what Brent, you've started and you've done an amazing. I mean, within 24 hours,
Yes.
less,
Yes.
man, can you imagine what's going to happen with that energy, passion going forward?
A
Don't
movement.
just imagine it, plan it.
Yes, it's a movement.
It's a
It's
movement.
something. It's a
And
movement.
so we need to be prepared, and people that are watching this, there are white people
Mm-hmm.
who are they're not all racist.
Right. Right.
There are black people who have biases and operate in those negative biases and um, don't equate. And when we say this, people have a tendency to not want to deal with real racist behavior because they say, I'm nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
too nice to be a racist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it doesn't have anything to do with being nice or mean.
Right.
It's your perspective
Yeah.
and your ideology and how that manifests
Right.
and what you think and how you treat others.
I definitely agree and wholeheartedly with you. Cherie, I want to ask you a question. When we look at protests today versus protests along your journey that you have seen in life, um, what are the positives that you see out of protests today versus those that we've had in previous times?
Um, this is, and so I'm going to be very transparent. Um,
Hmm.
I am 50, I don't know, 52, 53, something of
Hmm.
that nature. So I was born in the late 60s.
Hmm.
Um, and I kind of lived and coasted through my life and what I can remember in a very nice, everybody's congenial.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to think. This is for me the closest to there have been marches,
Marches, right?
but protest and standing up,
Ending up.
I've not come this close to it in my lifetime. Now, from what I um, know and have read,
Mhm.
what my family has told me about it, um, it's the same. It's almost identical. This whole cycle,
Mhm.
the pent up rage,
Mhm.
and that's what kind of kicks things off. And you're going to have people that are um, doing things and violent. They're acting out.
Mhm.
Um, but also um, the difference is media, the
Mhm.
availability to record and
Right.
get things out in real time.
Mhm.
So that's the difference.
Okay. Yes, technology, I think it helps us a lot. Like we talked about with this in this protest, 24 hours, and now we have 1,000 people out here standing for the same message. And I think that's so beautiful. And for me, just leading the protest and getting this protest together, one of the most beautiful things that I received from it was seeing young Black men come together, and those that may have lost that hope or faith that they can make it out of that economic deprivation or that a society that they have only seen drug dealers and the poverty community that they sometimes have to live in because of society only put resources on one side of the city. But to see those individuals gain hope, to see those individuals to say, you know what, my voice can really be heard and used. I think that was one of the most beautiful concepts that I seen, to see Black young men be able to gain hope that I can do something
Yes.
greater and something better. It was just magnificent to me. But I just wanted to ask you, from your perspective of what you have seen as this movement has been going on, what is the takeaway or the positive things or the beauty that you see in it?
Um, so um, I grapple with that. I'm being really transparent. What positive do I see? The positive I see is what I have to make of it.
Mhm.
That in Harrisburg,
Okay.
I'll start there, that I know of, no,
I'm back.
nobody was harmed or killed. Okay.
Right.
I'm
Um,
sorry. Did we say nobody was harmed or killed?
killed, I should say killed, not harmed.
Okay.
So,
She's talking,
and just here over this past weekend,
she's talking about this weekend.
just this weekend.
And so am I.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
hi, Miss Sharia. I'm Kamiki Campbell.
Yes. Hey.
I've met you before a few times.
Yes. So,
I don't want to interrupt, but I just wanted to make sure we're clarifying.
yes, just that
Nobody harmed or
I shouldn't say harmed. I didn't mean I
Yeah.
meant killed, physically killed.
now
So
is there some kind of qualification? Like why are we separating harm from killed, or what are we doing with that?
um, when I say kill, I literally mean life, physical life taken away. Harmed. Um, there are so many harmful things. So it's not always something that is physical. But when I think about this whole construct, we harm when you do damage, when hurtful things happen. That's what I mean by harm that damage a person's psyche. So and I was making the distinction between killed. So um, in that's a big thing. And I know that really is the life of especially Black men is so precious. And the line they walk between life and death
Right.
is very thin. So
It,
when we
it
talk
is.
about um, protest and uprising, I immediately become fearful for especially the Black men because we've seen on the news in the last 2 weeks, what happens, the whole, I don't know, Karen syndrome, but you can walk down the street and if you're perceived as threatening, and that's enough for someone to pull a trigger um, and kill you. So, and that's what started all of this. It's always and constant. So that's a big victory.
Right.
Might
Right.
seem small
It
to someone
is.
else or just a given,
Mhm.
but every time we have a gathering like this and a Black man walks away alive, it's a victory. A
Mhm.
Black
Mhm.
person walks, it's a victory. So
Mhm.
it's sad, but it's true. The
It
other
is.
thing I think has come out of this that's really positive is that it is challenging people to have these courageous conversations.
Mhm.
So it's created a forum um, for this.
Mhm.
And because of COVID, we're forced to have it in these kinds of digital forms that make it, I think, a little safer right now as an entryway into it. But it also allows us to continue the conversation immediately like this. So, what else is positive? There are police, all police aren't bad. All law enforcement officials aren't bad. Um, they stand aside and not do anything, then that's something different. But um, we've gotten to see the other side of this, some of it. But so those are some of the positive things that I see. Collaboration and partnership, the commitment to give this movement support from people that you didn't know before Saturday, right?
Mhm. Right.
So those are the positive things.
Okay. Kay, are you there? Let's see. Can you unmute your mic? You here?
Sure. I am.
I have a
Thank
question
you.
for you.
You're right.
Can you hear
Yes.
me? My question for
Yes.
you is, since the movement has been going on, what positives can you find in the movement?
For me.
Yeah, for you.
So, a couple of the positive I find in the movement is there's a varying amount of opinions on the state of law enforcement in the city.
Okay.
But we have a broader set of opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And that broader set of opinions trending towards we need to further assess how law enforcement is interacting with our community. That is what I will say. That is what I have observed from the weekend and my years. No, I don't want to top my years because that's not fair. I've only been here since 2012, 13. But I will say from the years that we've been here, we've seen that the law enforcement situation,
Mm-hmm.
we are making people villains. We're addressing a culture. Absolutely, absolutely, Clayton. Absolutely. And
Yes.
that is important. That's an important point. Like we don't want to do an us versus them. That is not what we want to do here, and it's very important that we don't do that.
I can't.
However, we do want to do a we do want to do a level of accountability, particularly from what we saw this weekend. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is what people were crying out for yesterday from what we saw. People were very much like, we need a level of accountability with the people that we interacted with, the law enforcement that we interacted with city officials that we interacted with. That is what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I am ascertaining from the people who have been here. So I understand that there are some people believe that there aren't all bad some things. And I think every privileged group does this activity where they say, well, so and so isn't all bad.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to home in on this point.
Okay.
I absolutely
Yes.
understand that we're saying such and such isn't all bad. That is not it. Period.
Yeah.
It
We're
isn't that such and
again.
such
I
isn't
think
all
you're
bad.
right. Nothing. Yeah. We're
The point
addressing
is that
culture.
we're holding on what is the issue that we need to address. There is no room in the community to say so and so isn't all bad. We already know that in the community. This isn't a surprise. This isn't a surprise
Right.
to anybody in the community. We have 23 people watching plus others. So the community knows that such and such isn't all bad. We do not need to make excuses
Mm-hmm.
for those who aren't bad. That is
Mm-hmm.
not the point of the story. That is not what we want to promote today. That is
Mm-hmm.
not what we want to do. We want to find solutions to the things that are actually wrong in the community. So I charge us as the three of us who are sitting here in this StreamYard
Mm-hmm.
to say what is actually the problem. Because we can't keep exalting, oh, everybody's not all bad. That is not the work. It
I,
ain't the work. So
I
I
agree,
want
Kay.
us
I
to
stand
think
corrected.
about
Yes.
what
And that's not right.
what are the things that we
What we
what are
can
the
do.
things we need to address? What are the people and the groups and the officials and whoever that we need to actually address? Because the work is not to say that the cops aren't all bad, that the
mm-hmm.
officials aren't bad, that whoever isn't all bad. Because the community is experiencing something very different.
Mm-hmm.
And it is important that we acknowledge that. the community is experiencing something different than, well, the cops are all bad. We understand that as a that is a give. We apples in the bunch, but
Mhm.
we also all know as such. So
Okay, I think you may have.
here's the question.
Can you hear us? Okay, can you hear us? Okay, I think Kaye is going in and out. She's having a little technical difficulties. But as Kay was saying, um, we have to ask that question: how do we move forward, and how do we address the issues when one apple ruined the bunch? Because when we look at our law enforcement officers, they've taken an oath to protect us. They've taken an oath to serve us, and all of these other things. They represent us. And if one is doing something bad, they are one unit, just like we marched as one unit. When one of us is doing something bad, we're one unit out there. And for example, one person throw a brick, it says the protest threw bricks. One cop kill a guy, the officers are killing us. So we have to address those things, and we have to make sure, and especially how heinous and the actions of officers can be, police brutality, excessive force, those type of things can damage lives. They kill lives, they take lives away. So we want to make sure that we address this. We have a solution to this. We identify what needs to happen when we to be able to get past this. Black lives are being taken at a disproportionate rate. Black lives are being incarcerated at a disproportionate rate, and it's all stemming from those social structures that have been encompassed in life and in our social realm. And yes, it's a lot. It's a lot of things that we have to take into account. But we're going to address those things one step at a time.
Yeah, it's so big, it's so
Yeah,
huge, so embedded and systemic. I think we get tired and overwhelmed of how do you address the whole problem. But if we can address what we can
right.
in steps, and it's going to take beyond just one event
Hmm.
or one protest. It's things long term. So how do you do that? Um,
Right.
so be heard, be represented, be part of um, watching out for
Hmm.
each other.
Hmm.
So it's big, and so that's it. What
How do we
are
address
we
it?
going to do now? What are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
Hmm.
And I think we, Kay, I think one of the things that we have started is the movement to start addressing these things, to start saying, "Hey, we got a problem here." Saying, "Hey, we are not standing for this anymore." And it's going to take not all of us working together. It's going to take agenda. It's going to take planning. It's going to take, and I'm not saying this is an overnight process. Uh,
Hmm.
when
Right.
you look at people, for example, during segregation era, when they were beginning to protest, they didn't stop spending money at the stores for one day. They stopped spending at the stores for multiple days. They didn't stop riding the bus for a week or 2 weeks. They stopped riding the bus for a year, 2 years. You know, we have to start making sure that we stay committed to gain or attain a solution. And that's what we have to charge the community with. That's what we have to charge and hold ourselves accountable with, to stay committed to be able to make this change happen. I've over the course of this time, I've gotten a lot of questions and feedback of, do you think it can happen? Do you think you can have? Do you believe that this can really happen? Will it happen? Yes, I do. I do. We talk about faith, and without that faith, without that belief, without that manifestation that you believe something can happen, it won't. You got to believe it within yourself that you can make that change. You can make these things happen, and hold the person that's next to you accountable, and spread that belief. It's not a one man's job, and but it's going to take an incremental step process to get to where we're trying to go. And we will get there, and it won't happen overnight, but you have to stay committed to be able to get there. Kay, I think you're unmuted now. And I know you were saying something earlier and you kind of cut out.
Yeah, I fixed it.
um,
Yes, I agree with that. Part of the other thing that I want us to consider
yeah,
is that this is not an abstract problem. This is a very much a community problem that is present right now.
right.
And um, the fact that we kind of bring it to the abstract does a disservice
Mm-hmm.
to the fact
Hmm.
that there are real community problems that are happening right now. Secondly, from what I'm glad I was actually on mute because I was actually able to listen, because it's hard for us to listen sometimes without offering
Ooh,
input.
you said something right there.
So, uh-huh. So what I want to input after I've listened is, um I don't want the burden to be on the Black community, or even the brown community, Black or brown community, to shoulder and push forward, even though we are at the helm of it, like we are. I don't want the burden to be exponentially or eternally on us to do certain things. And I think that's what's important. Like, I hear what y'all are saying. However, I don't want the burden to be on Black and brown folks in this community to push the change forward, because we're already overladen. We are already working in our communities. We are already starting initiatives. We are already doing certain things. Like, it is time, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, for different folks to start to come together and push certain initiatives forward.
Mhm.
So, with that said, I wanted to, I wanna I want to talk about something that's very important to us. Let's see, we have a comment here. Here's a great resource for those who are wondering how they can educate themselves about the Black experience and how you can practice being anti-racist. Absolutely. And I think the work is to be anti-racist,
Anti-racist.
and we don't have to tiptoe. And now I want to be very specific. We do not have to tiptoe around the fact that there is a need to be anti-racist. Basir, can you join the StreamYard? Thank you. Because I wanted to help curate on your computer. Please join, because I wanted to help curate some questions. We
You have to be.
we do not,
That is the whole thing. Anti-racist.
absolutely,
Anti-racist.
absolutely,
So, and we're not the
absolutely.
racist.
Uh, hey,
So
what was the book? How to be anti-racist by who? How to be Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. It's a very good book. And that book goes out of the way to explain how you can adopt anti-racist sentiments. Not just, I'm not racist, because that's not good enough. It's
Right.
not.
right.
Being not racist is not good enough. I cannot stress that
Mm,
enough. Being not racist, I'm not racist. Well, I'm not racist. My family's not racist, and I'm not racist. And I think actually I will say this very plainly for us and us being black and brown people. I when I first read Ibram X. Kendi's book, I was like, ugh, he's not talking to brown and black people. We are naturally anti-racist, and we're not. There are some of us who ascribe to dominant culture thinking, racist thinking,
right.
and therefore are not anti-racist. You are not anti-racist simply because you associate by skin color with a group. And that's a very important point to make. You have to be anti-racist in your thinking. You have to be anti-racist in the way you are approaching how black and brown people are in this. Yes, How to Be Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. It's a very good book because before I read his book, I was like, I'm anti-racist, but I am not if I am not thinking and acting in anti-racist ways. And anti-racist ways do not include excusing the dominant culture for their racist behavior. And that's a very important point to make. Anyway, I would like to, now that I have my internet connection figured out, I would like to invite, there something important happened
I
today,
can't
and there
chat.
actually was an extension for folks who were doing this. Um, Rachel Hadrick, are you in the chat? The chat being the StreamYard chat, because that's where I need you to be. So you can. So if Rachel is in there, she can click the link, and I want y'all to admit her because she is our. She's not an expert. She wants to make it be clear that she's not an expert, but I want somebody here to talk about voting tonight because voting has been something that we haven't um, fully explained. And I think we have done a disservice to the community with how we explain voting. So, Rachel's here to explain why voting is important. Rachel, are you in the StreamYard?
Right. She's not in right now, okay? We can't see her in the backstage.
All right, well, let's give her a moment to get there. Rachel, can you get in the StreamYard? Hold on. Let me get her in the chat. Oh, Rachel Hadrick, StreamYard. Hold on. I gotta unmute myself from my other chat. Rachel, can you StreamYard? Yep, Rachel, can you StreamYard? Now I am. Oh, hold on. Rachel, can you StreamYard? Can you get in the StreamYard? Rachel Hadrick. Yay, she's on her way. She's on her way there. So when y'all see her, let's do that. Now, the reason why it's important to invite different voices that are mine and Brent's is because somebody said she's on her way. Wendell's out. How is Wendell out? Okay, I'm not gonna speak that out loud. It's fine. Wendell's out. Bye, Wendell.
So one other question while we're waiting on Rachel to join in. One of the questions
Yeah.
that we have been receiving a lot of is, as we know, everybody plays a role, correct? When we're going into protests and movements and etc. For those individuals that are non-minorities that feel that their role isn't to be super hardcore active in protest, what can they do to contribute to um, the movement, to making sure that they still want equality and justice for all, but they don't want to be in a protest?
Say that. Can you state your question one more time?
For those in there, as
It
we
does
know, everybody has a.
anybody see Patrick?
I
I
can't
I
hear.
can
can't see
hear
her,
you.
so somebody else let her in.
Can you hear? Can you hear Kay? Hello.
Yes.
So the question is, everybody has a role, and when we're going into a movement and protesting, et cetera, for those non-minorities, their role is not to be um, engaged in the protest, but still want to contribute to the cause and make sure their voices are heard and that they support the movement. How can they contribute?
There's individual responsibility too.
Individual responsibility. Go ahead.
If you're and carrying the burden
Hmm.
for um, being aware, for changing behavior, racist behavior. For just the first thing is being aware and willing to understand and hear that, oh, I have an issue. I am racist, or
Hmm.
um, I'm coming to the table,
Okay.
some table.
Mhm.
For me, it manifests itself in the theater world.
Right.
So th- that's my little part in it. Everybody can do something. And when we're not doing it, we are literally condoning and supporting for the racist behavior to continue.
Right. Right. Right.
And
I,
even saying, I don't know, um, even as Black people, we have been raised, educated, um, conditioned in a racist society. So we have to be willing to say, oh, that's what's happening. It's an
mhm.
education for us too.
Right. I think when one of the things that I thought about when that question came to me, and I expressed back to those individuals, was, you don't, if you can't come to the protest and you can't, and that's not your role, there's other ways you can still contribute to the movement. You talk about these things, you correct people when they're talking about it in your families, about when they are saying that the move, that this is incorrect, or this is not something that should be we should be doing, or you stand up for what is right. You can contribute financially if you want to. There are multiple ways that you can contribute to a movement that you're trying to, when you believe in equality and when you believe that injustice is not there. And I think one of the main ways is correcting people. You correct when going to Thanksgiving and correcting your uncle or auntie that may be saying that this Black Lives Matter thing, and trying to oppress it with all lives matters, those type of things. You want to make sure that we are that you let them know and you educate them on the fact that Black lives are taken, and they're taken at a rate much higher than other lives. So I think it's very, very important that when you can't give in one way, or when you feel you can't come to the protest, or that's not your role that you play a role of educating. You play a role of all of these other things. There are multiple ways, and and for me, I believe in playing all roles to when you're trying to make a movement like this. However, if you feel that as a non-minority, that one role may not fit you, or that's not something that you really want to be a part of, but you still want to stand for the cause, you do what you can do. You educate people. There are multiple ways, and I want to just make sure. And Rachel, I see that you've came in as well today, and if you want to have any type of dialogue about this, you feel free to chime in as well. But I just want to let you know that, and I'll just hand the floor over to you right now since you're just here, just to ask you that question and see what do you think non-minorities should do when they feel that their role is not to be at the protest?
Oh, is that you asking me? Okay. So I did think of something. Thank you all for allowing me to participate in the chat. So I will say that I kind of have like a long story of racial identity. You know, I'm biracial and I grew up, you know, always very aware of race, even like from like 3 years old. Um, so one of the things that I remember happened to me is my parents went to uh, Virginia for like a weekend getaway, and they brought me back a book about John Brown. John Brown was a white man who led a slave rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
That was very important for me because I was like really confused. Like, how can mommy and daddy love each other, but people that look like mommy own people that look like daddy as slaves? Like, that was just very confusing to me. So, and I used to work in higher education in the area of diversity. I found a very, you know, which takes a lot of patience. Not everyone, you know, I understand as people of color, not everyone has the patience, you know, or the emotional, you know, you don't necessarily owe people the emotional labor of bringing them along, but when you do, I feel like seeing those role models of allies who have truly given and sacrificed is very helpful. So, I mean, John Brown was like way out there, but look for other resources as far as allies, people who have really put themselves out there. Because for a lot of people, honestly, if you operate in privilege, it can be really scary to even fathom like breaking away from those things. I mean, and in all areas of privilege, like being straight and learning to be an ally to the LGBT community. Like,
Right.
it's not necessarily right or justified. I'm not making excuses, but I think in order for people to become the allies that they need to become, it's important to see examples of others who have come before them who have been allies without being a member of a community. So I think research is important. Like, there's tons of, like, you can read Black authors. I've been posting about, you know, my faith is important. So I've been posting resources of Black theologians that people can read.
Mm-hmm.
Introducing, you know, Black intellects in every area of life, like, that people can consult. So I think doing a lot of personal work and reading and listening to and learning and just being open to learn. Like, sometimes we can get in this mode where like we already think we know everything, and you know, learning from other people's experiences, acknowledging that the world as we see it in our privilege is like distorted, and we have to be able to be willing to learn from other people. But so that's
Awesome. And Rachel, I'll let you go ahead and kind of introduce yourself to the people and just give them a little bit about your background to clarify some things and what you can bring to this topic and about everything.
So Kaye asked me to give a little talk about voting. So I am a private corporate attorney, and so it's not my expertise area, but I've always had a passion for voting since I was a little kid. And I used to be very upset that you had to be 18 to vote. I was always very into politics, and you know, was always writing letters to the president as a kid. So it's just always something I've been passionate about, and I tried to bring awareness to issues of voting rights and things of that nature, and I've always tried to follow. So of course we had the June 2nd primary today, so that's pretty much a done deal. I know there are a few counties where Governor Wolf extended the receipt time for a mail-in ballot, so Dauphin County was one of those. So if you had your ballot postmarked by today, but it gets received
Right
now in June 9th, it will still be accepted. Before yesterday, it was supposed to be received by 8 p.m. today, no exceptions. But thankfully, he did do that. So if your ballot is in the mail and it gets received by June 9th, it will be counted. So that's important. But I mean, just because today is over, I think we still need to be thinking for November for the general election. So some people, if it's, some people are just getting into the process of understanding voting. Today was just a primary. And Pennsylvania, we have both primaries. I've, talked to a few people who, are new to the state, and they come from a state that's an open primary, which means it doesn't matter how you're registered to vote. And your political affiliation, doesn't matter. You can vote for whatever candidate in the primary you want, but Pennsylvania is a closed primary state. So if you are registered as an independent, you are not able to vote for candidates in the primary. And that's important for people to know. If you missed today, I've been telling people today, change your registration now, because what happens is otherwise, you forget until the next primary. And it's late. So changing your registration now if you feel strongly about participating in a certain party primary. And to both of you, if I'm like covering stuff that's like, jump in and ask questions that matter. But I feel like, some of these things we get to right before the election and we're scrambling. And a lot of these things have to be changed 30 days before. So we can address them now. There's nothing that just because it's June 2nd, there's no reason that if you're not registered to vote today and you miss today, that you can't go in tomorrow or go online tomorrow and register to vote now. So you're not scrambling in November.
Now, Rachel, question. Why is voting important? Because a lot of people have come to the conclusion that voting is not important because of a lot of different factors. Because they're saying voting is not important because of a previous election they were a part of. Voting is not important because of the neighborhood they live in. Voting is not important because of the state. So why is voting important?
So one more thing, I do want to add in that what Kaye just said. Another one that that I've seen a lot of talk about in this area is the electoral system. I want you to speak on that as well, and how that process works.
Okay. So why is voting important? I think I like to describe it as a tool in a tool belt. It's not a microwave. You're not going to get a TV dinner out of voting. So when I know a lot of people, it's frustrating because you might vote for someone and then they don't necessarily carry through with all their promises. Sometimes people, come in with an agenda and they come in with ideals, and that's important. You want to shoot high, but the reality is like there's a process to enacting policies, and depending on who you're dealing with, it's not, tenable. You have to, work within the system when it comes to voting, right? So if you have goals of, forgiving everyone's student loans, if the system you're in, the rest of the legislature or whatever isn't going to go for that, you could promise that all day, but if you can't pass with the other members of the legislature, you're not going to get it done. So it's important to keep that in mind, that you have to give some grace to people. I think that there has been a lot of promising that people never intended to come through on the promises. They're writing checks that they couldn't cash, but there's also a process. So just because someone promises you something and you fight for it doesn't mean it's going to happen. So like I said, I told someone the other day, racism is so insidious and it's so touches every area of life,
Right.
that the idea that one thing is going to solve it is kind of not rational, right? So police reform even isn't going to completely eradicate racism, right? Because you're still going to have discrimination in education. Like, it's in every area, in the healthcare system, it's in every area of life. So voting, going and pressing a button is critical, but it's not, it's a tool in a tool belt. You don't build a house with a hammer, with just a hammer. You're not going to build the whole house. You need a screwdriver, you need a saw. So we have advocacy, we have protests, we have demonstrations, we have, education, and then we have voting as one of those tools. So it's important to keep in mind that you can vote, you can show up once every so many years and vote, but honestly, this is a long haul, thing that we're in. So voting is just one way to get things accomplished. To your point about the Electoral College, I think it's important because I've seen a lot of disinformation about the Electoral College in 2016. So yes, electors actually select the president.
Right.
But so you do not vote directly. Your vote does not one-on-one decide the president, right? Mm-hmm. So each state, each candidate selects electors who then go to the Electoral College on your behalf. So in Pennsylvania, Joe Biden will have people that their campaign selected and the DNC selected as people who will go to the Electoral College if Joe Biden gets the majority votes in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. So I've heard people say, well, my vote doesn't matter because the Electoral College doesn't pick, because I don't pick the president, the Electoral College picks the president. But if you don't vote, we don't know who even goes to the Electoral College. Mm-hmm. So the electors are selected by the voters, and those electors have committed to a candidate. So your vote does indirectly impact who gets to be president, and depending on the state law, they are directed to, like, those people have to vote for whoever is, who they've committed to. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, if you don't vote for the president, you don't even know who the electors are that go and select the president.
Rachel,
am I being clear, or was it?
No, this is great. Rachel, how do you, or can you, what do we do to reconcile, one, the candidates and their platforms and what they advocate for, what they stand for, aren't in our best interests. So the feeling of, and then, so that's one, but two, I think the local politics and voting is powerful, because those candidates and representatives, they have more control of what happens with us in our everyday, day-to-day lives and communities. So it's like voting outside of a presidential or primary election can be more important for us and advantageous for us. And then how do we get candidates? How do we get our voice heard and Black people into the politics and into these positions?
So do we really believe that Black folks are into the politics? Is that our?
We are.
I think,
but we need more.
Yeah, I just want to get us represented. I'm looking
I
at.
will say there was a lot today. There were a lot of people of color today. on the ballot. Pretty
Yeah.
pretty surprising. But in those, depending on the level, I think with every industry, every area, like the higher you go, sometimes the lonelier it gets, right? Um, so, let's see your first question, Sharia. Okay, I got it. So holding electors or candidates accountable after they're elected. So I keep, and I will be honest, my state polls, I should have the number stored in my phone, but I don't. But I definitely have the congressional number stored in my phone. And I'm going to, I know it's a 202 number. I keep that in my phone. The general number, you can basically type in your zip code and it will direct you to the specific elected official. I call all the time. I can give you, I have an email stored in my Gmail from 2009, I think. I was living in Lancaster County, and I had my representative was a known. He was involved in this situation where our U.S. officials were going to Uganda, I think it was, to help them enact anti-LGBT policies in Uganda. I think it's either Uganda or Ghana. So 11 years ago. So I don't quite remember, but. I knew he was involved in this, but I still felt like I'm your constituent. So I'm emailing you about passing this equality bill that's in Congress to make it against the law to discriminate against the LGBT community in employment. And I made him, I knew there was no way he was going to vote for that. Okay. But I wanted it on paper what his response to me was going to be. Why he will not vote for it. So even though I knew that it was something against his agenda, for me it was important to email him, let him know that he does have constituents who don't necessarily agree. This was a heavy Republican district, but I needed to make my voice heard. And he wrote me a lengthy email back explaining to me why he didn't think that this bill should be passed. I felt like his response was pretext. A lot of the arguments he made weren't effects that he said the bill would have were not accurate. But that's why I thought it was important to hold him accountable in that, for him to put in paper why he didn't support this legislation. So I think, again, voting is not a microwave TV dinner. There's work to be done afterwards. Absolutely. People get in office, they get your vote, they think, and we talk about this all the time, that people take, the Democratic Party takes, they know Black people are going to vote for them. And Absolutely. Then when they get in, what they do. But part of that, I think, is also our responsibility to understand that there's an ideal, what people should do, and what we know they are going to do, right?
So
we can argue all day about what people should do, but if we know that they're going to, get in office and then not come through, then why are we continuing to just sit back and not hold them accountable? So I know my elected officials, I know their identities, I know how to get in touch with them. I get emails from my elected officials. I get a call all the time from my current representative. He knows I don't, don't necessarily support him either, but I get voicemails about being on his town halls, and I will try to participate from time to time. I think it's important to stay engaged with your elected officials because, things slip their minds. New things come up that what wasn't on their platform before, right? So you have to be willing to continue to engage with your elected officials so they don't forget that your vote is up for, that you're not necessarily just going to show up for them again. I expect you to address this issue.
So you keep it in your phone. You said you keep their number and their email address in your contacts. So when we talk about things like what can we do, that's a real actionable insight that we can do, and the information is scrolling. But before we get off the call, Can we commit that we're going to put find out your representative and put it in your phone and in your contacts to whip off an email? And where there are
right now, your stance on what are your local state politicians and federal politicians, what ideas do they have on concrete policies that are going to address police brutality?
Yep.
Ask them. Don't wait for election time, because if that's not the hot topic that's, you know, going on during election time, then they're not going to talk about it. You need to ask and engage them, and also give them our position so they know that their constituents care about these issues. So there's so many issues in the world that they could be addressing. So it's important to keep certain issues in the front of mind.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of the situation. But yeah, keeping the number in your phone. Facebook has a feature where you comment on certain elected officials' pages. It indicates that you are a constituent. So you put your address into Facebook. I know, them having all your information. They have all your information anyway. Let's just be honest. You put in your address, and it will indicate to your elected leader when you're commenting on the page that you are a constituent. There's a little symbol that goes by your comment that says you're a constituent. So again, I mean, you know, Facebook comments can get all kinds of nasty, but it still is documenting that you're articulating your position to your elected leader. Whether or not they look at all of them, who knows? But I think you really have to document things to be accountable. If we don't raise issues with our elected leaders, all they have to do is say, I didn't know that this was an issue. I didn't know. You know what I mean? There's always all kinds of ways to get out of things. But when you put things on paper, you call. Now it's calling during impeachment all the time. We need witnesses, emailing. And a lot of times there are like nonprofit organizations that will, all you have to do is type in your information, your address, and they will they have an email already drafted, and your information goes right to your congressperson. Or you can copy and paste and send it to everyone. Like, it doesn't take that long anymore. So I think that's an important concrete thing that we can continue to do, and we should be doing right now with our elected officials. Who's not, we know there are some people that we haven't seen their faces. But if you don't ask them where they are, I mean, that's the reality. Again, ideally, people should be doing the right thing, but we know they haven't. So if we know they're not going to do the right thing and we're not getting the results, then we have to hold them accountable.
All right. So that's a great point by Rachel. So we have a lot of comments. It is 9:23. It is in the custom of Tipsy Rona Live Tuesday. Hold on, I have some extra contributors. Sorry, it's dogs. They're dogs. But we have a lot of people in the chat who want to comment. 2 people being some of my favorites. Favorites, I sent you a link to comment. Can you join it using the link? Winnie, Shub, link. Julia, link. Clayton, link. I put the link in the chat. Can y'all join using the link? Please. Because we want to hear from you and we want to hear what you have said. Karen Rooch says, have you received any meaningful response yet from city or state officials about actions they're willing to take that we can reinforce and advocate for? So I'm going to say no, but I will let Brent answer because I'm a cynist when it comes to this, a cynic when it comes to this. So Brent, what would you say?
So currently, from my perspective, certainly I think that they are willing to hear, but as far as what actions can be taken and what do we do, that's the importance of our town hall meeting, and that's why we're having one. So
When's the town hall?
so the town hall has, I'm waiting to hear back from the city officials. They said the max, we negotiated and talked about it. They have to meet the demands of the town hall within at least 2 weeks. So they have 2 weeks to make sure that everybody will be there. So within the next 2 weeks, the town hall will be set. I will be sending out information regarding the town hall, as well as contacting and posting in the event page different questions so that we can start collecting data to be able to address the concerns that you guys have and the demands you want and solutions as well. So you'll be seeing different
Good.
that you'll be seeing in the event page that you'll need to be commenting on as we have volunteers that have decided to come in and collect that data and put those different data groups together to make sure we have a consensus of what the city of Harrisburg want when we're presenting something. We want to make sure all are represented. I don't want just my decisions or Kaye decisions or anybody else's decision or Angela's decision. I want to make sure this is something that represents you guys and what you think. So please, 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 when you see those questions, make sure that you comment to verify the things that you're demanding, and they will be in different sectors. So you'll have one that's like, for example, what are the solutions that you are looking for from
Mhm.
from this movement? You'll have a question that's
So
What
yes,
page is it going to be on? Can we post on the banner that
yes.
information?
I will
yes,
actually
absolutely.
send that to our backstage to post that.
To do that, yep. So I have a special guest.
Okay,
I'm trying to get her in here.
everyone free.
Miss Peterson, who is the CEO of Hamilton Health Center and one of the pillars of the community. I want to get her into the chat. So, Kendra, can you hear me? I'm talking to my phone, but I don't know if you can hear me. Can you? Okay, she said it to her, so she can join the chat soon, because I want her to talk to us about some of her experiences. In the meantime, I'd like to go through. Hi, Winnie. Oh, Winnie's in here. Winnie has a very important message for us. Winnie,
Yes.
please go ahead and tell us about your work.
Oh, what the class manager? I do a lot of things.
Yes, yes.
Um,
I think she's muted.
am I
No,
muted?
we can hear you.
Am I muted? Okay.
I see.
Hi, my name is Winnie O, and I guess technically my training is as an engineer. I'm a civil engineer, work here for the state. I'm very passionate about all things politics and social justice and all that jazz. And one of the things that I've actually been working on recently, thanks to Rona, is a reporting platform for harassment and assault incidents. It's called HARP, Harassment and Assault Reporting Platform. And so that's one of the things that I would definitely like to see us use more in terms of being able to collect data for harassment and assault, which includes police brutality incidents, because it starts as a harassment issue. So yeah, so harpnow.org, and yeah.
Say it again, Winnie. Harp now.
Harpnow.org. That's HARPNOW.org. And so again, basically we would like to build a robust data repository so that we can more clearly reflect what's going on in the community. There is a button there where you can click to HARP it, which is report an incident, whether it's harassment, assault, or police brutality. And then we also have a climate survey, one for harassment and assault, and the other one is specifically for police brutality, just to be able to understand how different communities are feeling about police presence and the status of police within their community. So again, that's harpnow.org. That's HARPNOW.org.
Thank you, Winnie.
You're welcome.
All right, we're going to relinquish Winnie's space to bring some other folks on. Clayton, talk to us. Clayton, you're muted. Still muted, Clayton.
Hi.
Now here you are.
So can you hear me or no?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on. All right. Okay. I think it's just delayed. I think there's a delay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. So earlier, one of the questions I had posed was regarding how do we make sure as we're engaging in activism that we don't fall into patterns of behavior which seek to uphold the systems we're trying to take down.
Could you say that last part again? Thank you. That was a delay. Clayton, can you hear? Can you hear us?
How do we make sure we patterns of behavior that uphold the very systems we're trying to take down?
I think that's the importance of having an agenda. Without a plan, and I said that the other day at the protest. If you go rob a bank without a plan, you're going to get caught because you're going to always.
And this, I just want to highlight what Brent is saying. So many people were coming up to me at the rally going, well, they were saying, this is not going to change anything. And I'm like, okay. I'm sorry. I have dogs. They're loud. Okay. People were coming to me saying, sis, what is this going to change? And I'm like, unless you get organized, it changes nothing. You could want to do the most nefarious acts or the most legal acts. It doesn't matter. If you're not organized, it means nothing.
Mhm.
That's it. So whether your acts are completely legal or they're pushing boundaries of whatever, not my thing. But I'm saying if you're not organized, around a task, it means nothing. It means nothing.
And I think my second part to Clayton, to your question, in order, it's very hard. I promise you, it's very hard to keep everybody on your agenda or the agenda that you're presenting and the goals and objectives that you're trying to have in place. Um, I think that's the importance of a good leader. If you don't have a good leader that's able to clarify and able to relate to the individuals that they are leading, everybody won't be on the same page. There won't be a clear agenda. And it goes into what you just spoke about. We're getting off of enforcing that same brutality and that same element. So I think that's why it's important that as we move or as we try to create a movement of what we're doing currently, you got to have effective leadership. It is the vital component to being able to make things happen and to progress through it. And with that, and effective leadership will always carry you, but and get the and having a strategic plan will always get you to the goals and success that you're looking for.
Brent, on that, and Kaye, amen. Yep, organized. Got to be organized, but you also have to be strategic. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
unified. So, there's a tendency to divide and attack from within because we don't always recognize that sometimes what is being said, who's being spoken to, how it's being said is strategic, because you got to know who you fight, and you got to know who they are and how to communicate with them, and be able to communicate and get your point across. And but when you try to do that, we got to make sure we're not tearing each other up because we all understand we're marching in the same direction, but we got to take some different approaches. We are all in different stations in our lives. And
Agree.
I don't want to go out and say, oh, whoever, in the boardroom, there is a certain approach that I need to take and use, because I need the people in there. I'm talking about non Black people of color, white people that's in the boardroom with me, to change. There is a way, there is stuff they understand or that will impact them. So that's what I need to do and how I need to introduce it to them, because they are more effective with their people than I will ever be. So we just have to be strategic and unified. That's the main thing.
Absolutely. Now, I want to make sure we give some space to somebody who's very near and dear to my heart and who has agreed to be here this evening, a pillar of our community. Now, I want to imitate one of the best introductions. I had a very good introduction this past weekend of rallies, and I want to be able to do that. So this person was a civil rights activist, is now is now the longstanding CEO of Hamilton Health Center. She is here with us in the chat today, ladies and gentlemen. Mrs. Janine Peterson, please speak to the people.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to join you. I've just been listening to all the comments this evening, and I had the opportunity to actually watch the march that took place, the protest that took place here over the weekend. And just hearing the comments, I was telling Kamika earlier today, it's like deja vu. I marched, I protest, I was part of the civil rights movement. I was jailed. I
She was
was one of
Miss
those.
Peterson. Were you jailed?
I was jailed along with the other protesters. I lived in Pittsburgh. So right in our own neighborhoods, we marched. Unfortunately, what we saw was the same as when I saw the burning and the looting. That happened in our community when I was growing up in Pittsburgh. And those businesses never came back. We had, the grocery stores and the drug stores and everything that communities have in it. We didn't have to go far for anything that we needed in our home, right in the heart of Pittsburgh. I lived in Homewood in Pittsburgh. And now there's nothing because those businesses never came back. Those were entrepreneurs who were struggling. And, today, what I saw with all of the looting and burning, not only here in Harrisburg, we didn't have anything near what we were seeing across the country. But those businesses, those small businesses have been closed down since COVID started. And they were just struggling. They were on the brink of closure, of bankruptcy, because as you know, small businesses don't have, deep pockets. So they've been just waiting for the doors to open, hoping that they could come back. But what happened? We saw in Philadelphia, Minnesota, across the country, New York, businesses burned, our own communities burned. That's not the message that any of us want, to bring home. And, the anger, it's so deep and it's so long that we as a people have endured the injustices. So this is the boiling point, and I just admire and all of you that have stood up and have joined this cause. But it is going to take organization.
Yes.
We do have to have a platform. And it isn't just the platform of Harrisburg, it's what is the platform that we as a people want to see accomplished.
Yes.
You know, it's not that, you know, I heard, you know, we want to we want a revolution, we want to turn everything over. You got to do it step by step. We want to get to the finish line, and we want to know where the finish line is, but we've got to march and have that plan to get to where we want to go. And so, you know, the leadership is so critical. And I heard the young woman talk about voting. I was saying to Kamika, you know, we have got to get these people out of office.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So while we're protesting, we have to ask people, are you registered? Get the table out, get the voter registration cards out. Tell people, yes, we're out here making a message, but let's vote. Let our vote count. And then we hold everybody accountable. Because if we don't get these people out of office now, we got 8 more years of this.
Mm.
Whew. It's so
And
true.
he's going to kill us. He said what he's going to do. He's going to dominate. He's going to run over us. He's going to
That's what he
kill
said.
us.
That's what he said.
That's his words, and that's
His
what he
words.
wants to do. So the only way we get him out of office, which then trickles down and helps us to trickle down to our local level, because he caused this major divisiveness. It was always here, but he let it boil out because he said it's okay to do what they're doing to us. So
Yes.
I applaud all of you all. And it's not that everybody has to march. Everybody doesn't have to protest. They can do the behind the scenes work. There is a lot of work to be done after the marching ends.
Yes.
You know, we've got to get an action group going, whether it's with writing, whether it's going to the legislator's office, asking for a panel discussion of all the candidates. They need to be accountable to all of you, all of us.
Absolutely.
And you can make them and hold them accountable to do that because you hold power in your hands.
That's right. Absolutely.
So thank you for all that you all are doing.
You're welcome.
Ms. Peterson, I just want to say, I just want to brag for a moment. She's my boss. I want y'all to know that. And she has been the most supportive boss I've had in my entire life. And so I trust her when she's here addressing us, because I feel like she is a true person who has invested in this community, and she's invested in me personally. Like, she has me at her company. So I remember this morning, she's like, "Hey, I saw you on TV." And I was like, "Oh, I was nervous." And she said, "No, you got to make your voice be heard." And that's when I knew I had made the right. Today, I had other points along the way, but today is when I knew I made the right choice of where I was going to work. And that was at Hamilton Health Center for Mrs. Jean Peterson, just because of her involvement in the community. So thank you for blessing us. Thank you for talking to us. Thank you for telling us a little bit more about you, because I feel like a lot of us don't know that you were active with the a generation ago protests. Like, we're here protesting and we're here standing up for certain things. But you came before us, and we are extremely proud and honored and humbled to carry on what you and others have started. So thank you for talking to us tonight and imparting some wisdom on us for such a time as this.
And before you go, Ms. Peterson, I do have one question for you. And I posted this question earlier in the chat. and we're in the stream. But when you look at the protest today and the one that you went through, um, what do you see that's different, or what do you see that we're doing positive, or what is there any differences, or is there anything that you see, or could give any suggestions on, or your thoughts about that?
Well, I heard the comments earlier about, you have social media today, you get the message out much faster, you
Right,
organize faster.
right.
That's a blessing, and it can be a curse because you have to be careful when that social media platform is out there because anybody can listen. Anybody can use it to the detriment of the group. So you have to be careful of where it's going, who is hearing, who's involved, because everybody's purpose is not your purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think the leadership, when during my time, we had Martin Luther King. He was the national figure. We had a message. We were all joined together because of the end goal. We knew we were fighting just like this. I mean, talk about deja vu. Um, Equality and justice, for our people. And we had the factions on the side. I mean, everybody was not about peaceful protest. We had violence as well. So it's going to be, and I think, where the question becomes, how do you unify the message? So social media can be also that positive platform to pull together the different groups that are doing different things, because the larger the group, the more consolidated the message, the more powerful you become. And I think, this kind of convening of people that you do and you've been doing, that's the credibility that you've built up is essential because people are willing to listen.
Yes.
You have been there, and the rallying together, and everybody should have a voice. It shouldn't just
Yes.
be a few people having a voice. When you're in a group like this, everyone can convene and have their say and a voice. But when you leave that chat room or wherever you're convening, it's a unified message.
Yes.
And so far, that's, what I've observed and hear, but it's, making sure that people have that opportunity to participate in the dialogue.
Absolutely. So I just want to again say this is my boss. Can I make it any more clear? This is my boss.
You have made that very clear.
I'm gonna say it again. This is my boss. This is the first time in my lifetime that I have worked under a Black woman CEO. So I'm gonna just big it up 5 times. Bloop 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 bloop. I'm gonna big it up. This is amazing to me. I don't know. I don't know. It's just one of the most amazing things I've had in my lifetime. Miss Peterson, thank you for being with us and thank you for blessing us with this word. You have, I don't know, Brent, what would you say? Is this a validation of what we've been thinking about the last few days or not?
Yes, I think it's a validation. I think it's phenomenal to have someone that has already went through the experience to be able to come back and speak on the experience. And I can't thank you enough. And definitely wanted to have multiple conversations with you moving forward to kind of talk about these things and make sure that because wisdom is important when you're having a movement. As we know, like the world is a circle, and we got to stop the circle from happening. We can't be moving backwards. We got to move forward. So I think it's important to kind of have you there as a spokesperson to be able to say, hey, let me shed some wisdom into you guys of where I've been and how to progress forward. So excellent word tonight, and I definitely sincerely appreciate it.
Well, as I said, it's been my pleasure. I am here to support and do whatever I can. I am totally with you all. And, anytime you want to call on me, Kamika knows how to get me. Kendra knows how to get me. There's a number of people in this chat right now that knows how to connect to me.
Yeah.
So I am here to do whatever I can to support and advance this cause.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye, Miss Peterson. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Woo! So we have another special guest here. This is Shub. He's got like 100 names, but that's how we know him. We know
No, not really. I only got to one. Shuby, y'all just dropped the Y off the end.
10,000 names.
No, y'all like to drop the Y off the end.
We do.
So
we do. We like Shub. We like Shub. What are you gonna do?
So I just answer to it. So
Shub, I would like for you to talk to us tonight about your role as a pioneer and as an activist.
Pioneer.
Yes.
That's a big word right there. I'm really not a pioneer. Like, this shit been happening for years. I'm just filling in the gap where the older generation has left, for us to pick up the mantle. That's just what we're doing. We're not pioneering.
Absolutely.
We're picking up the mantle and running with it because that's what we're supposed to do. But, and I'm not doing nothing I'm not accustomed to doing. I've been out in the community, doing things behind the scenes that people don't even know about, like, ever since forever. So,
agreed.
But I'm just picking up.
I've heard about you from the time I first ever got here, about all the stuff you ever done.
Is it only thing? Is it the Donald Trump rally? Is that what you heard?
No, I heard before that. I just heard before that, and plus you have shown yourself to so many other things in the community after that. If that's not your only, but tell us about the Donald Trump rally. Tell us about
That's not my claim to fame. But Donald Trump rally was crazy. But forget Donald Trump, because when I was out there, because when I was out there protesting for Donald Trump, that was before he was elected, and people chose to sit home and not vote. And that's why I'm here tonight, because the opportunity to get rid of Donald Trump has presented itself again. And we, the people, we got to get up and get out and stop believing that our votes don't count, because if our votes didn't count, they wouldn't have been spraying our people down with fire hoses while they were trying to march to get the right to vote. They know our vote count. That's why they're trying to hinder the process to keep us from voting. If it didn't matter, why the hell would they be putting in so much work to stop us from doing it?
Absolutely.
You don't fight for something not to happen if you don't care about that shit. Like, they wouldn't be putting that energy into suppressing votes if it did not matter. So everybody with this stupid thinking that your vote don't count, they wouldn't be putting in that much effort to stop you from voting if it didn't matter.
Yes.
Oh, did my phone blink off? Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. And correct.
Okay. Yeah, so what my phone, you know how when your phone ain't active for a while, go screen close. I don't know what that was about. But what I'm saying is, stop thinking your votes don't count. Because if a motherfucker felt like you didn't matter, they wouldn't do the work to stop you from doing voting. Period. That's the thinking, and it's the, I don't know. They say it's the slave mentality, but that wasn't the slave mentality, because there was some slaves that felt like, oh, we need to stay here, our master gonna get us. But other slaves had the mentality like, we gotta get the fuck up out of here. So it's not a slave mentality thing. It's a stupid thinking that you are indoctrinated into you generation after generation. I don't know where we stopped caring about voting, because he act like 1960 was 200 years ago. It wasn't. They was just spraying with people with hoses. That wasn't even 50 years ago. Like, we got to stop thinking that it don't count, it don't matter, because if it didn't matter, it didn't count. They wouldn't be taking that much effort to stop us from doing it. Now, the opportunity has presented itself to show ourselves strong and stop just talking. Donald Trump got to go. And if you think that Joe Biden ain't the best pick, I'm telling you, 4 more years of Donald Trump ain't the move. It ain't the best pick. Period. I don't care if we can't continue to let an open racist, because that's what he is. He's loose lipped and he's fast typing. And that's all he does is get on the internet. He's a coward. You see how he had to go out there and have them knock the people down because his ass wasn't going to go out there and knock nobody down. The opportunity has presented itself to get rid of Donald Trump. We must activate our voices, our power, our collective power, people of color, whether you're black, brown, white people of color. Get your ass on the line and get out here and vote this man out of office, because if not, you think this first 4 years was some shit? Woo! You ain't seen nothing.
It's that's right.
You ain't seen nothing.
Because the third year has been worse than the first. The third and fourth year.
Come on, and imagine what year 6 gonna look like. And then listen to them. They won't stop. It's 10 o'clock. Stop the mariachi. I don't want to hear that outside.
What, are your friends outside performing?
No, that's the neighbors. They riding past mariachi band. Turn that down. We on here talking something real. So next year we have another opportunity. It has been 8 years. We do not want a mayor for 25 years like we had before. We had at least that mayor would get out and come see about the people. Next year, I make it my sole mission to get rid of Eric Papafus. For 8 years, this man has done nothing for our community. He has done nothing for the people of color. He has done nothing, period, but for Midtown, and they're sick of him. After 8 years. All he has done since he's been in office is buy property. And if you don't see something wrong with that, he's monopolizing the whole 3rd Street in Midtown. And if you don't see nothing wrong with that, then I don't know what else I could tell you. First of all, the man got in on a lie. He lied on our current mayor, said she sent thugs to his bookstore to break in and vandalize it. And even the cops said, well, we didn't even see no thugs. And if there was thugs in your bookstore, why did you go in? Why didn't you wait for us to come? Why did you go in? Because he was lying.
We can't do political views on the Zoom because of who is sponsoring it. So I'm sorry.
Oh, well then y'all invite me to the wrong
you did
Zoom.
very good up until you were like, the other things.
Well, that's what I thought I was here to talk about. The other things.
You did good.
Okay, well then I'll move on to my final closing point.
Yes.
We got to get leaders who aren't out here clout chasing, picture taking, and wanting to make a name.
What you say there? What you say there, Shub?
Come on, I said it again for the people in the back, and I'm gonna say it for the ones in the front that can't hear, and on both sides. We got to get us some leaders that need to stop clout chasing, picture taking, and trying to make a name for themselves. We got to stop rallying behind opportunists, because that's our problem. Because once they get what they want, they leave us anyway. Listen. Some of y'all know from the election that happened a few years ago. Y'all thought somebody, because we can't be political, so I'm going to say somebody was for y'all. Y'all voted out somebody else who wasn't giving y'all free turkeys and food stamps on the corner. So y'all decided, we don't want her no more. We're going to go with him. He making all these promises. And y'all thought that y'all was going to actually receive something. No, all he received was more for himself. And he started dissing y'all from the door.
What is important to note here is that regardless of party, regardless of slant, regardless of whatever, is that the elected officials, whoever the fuck they are, represent everyone.
Right. And we got to stop following behind just any old body.
Because they represent, whether they lead one way or another, they represent everybody. So we have to
telling you,
people, period.
Because I'll be saying so many leaders emerge without leadership skills, without
Absolutely.
leadership qualities.
All
Like,
right, Sue, we got to
I'm
go
out of
in a
here.
minute. We got to
Yeah,
go. We've
well,
been on here for 7,000 hours or
Yes.
well,
just 2
that's
hours.
all. I'm glad that you invited me on, but I want to say that just one more time. The opportunity has presented itself to make your voice known in November, and then again for the city of Harrisburg next
Yes,
year. You need to
yes,
get out and apply your civil right, which is the vote, which
that's
is
right.
important.
Right.
Because again, if you heard nothing I said, if it wasn't important, they wouldn't be trying to stop you from doing it.
Thank you.
Okay?
And
And
Shu is a
stop following
man of the
everybody.
community.
Everybody ain't a leader.
Absolutely.
That's all.
Absolutely. Shu. And
I
Shu
think
has been a man of the community forever. Forever and a
I'm
day.
from this community.
Period.
The
Now,
officials and elected leaders, they know me. They call
they
me
do.
Shub.
They
Okay?
do.
They
They know. They know. So we are going to end on that note. Brent, take us home tonight. What have we learned?
What we've learned today is that this is not the end. Today we took today to recover, to try to talk about things as we spoke about at the rally yesterday. It was time to talk about it. I know you guys have been physically tired. I know you're emotionally tired. I know you're exhausted at this point, but the battle isn't over and the victory hasn't been won. So as we move forward, please be on the lookout for the town hall information. As I stated earlier, it will be posted on the Facebook event page that we originally created, which will be asking for information regarding your questions, your demands, and etc., so that we can have our volunteers who have been collecting data to organize that information so everything will be discussed. In addition to that, I want to say that you guys have power in your hands. Um, Ms. Peterson came in and spoke about the process of her experience protesting through her time. And change was made, but change happens in incremental steps. So remember to stick with the agenda, stay together, continue to be united. I am glad that you guys came out. I'm glad that you're supporting. I hope that you've had a wonderful time. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me. My Facebook page is Brent Lipscomb, and you'll see on the event page, you can always message me. I'm always open to discussion from you guys. So, as I stated before, a job well done. Continue to press forward. Thank you guys for attending today.
Thank you. God bless you.